I think for the fact I'm already planning to open this, I'm breaking one cardinal rule. Here's your look at McFarlane Toys movie Maniacs. This is the 40-year-old virgin, Andy Stitzer. Introducing Nice Guy Andy, the endearing protagonist in the theatrical hit The 40-Year-Old Virgin, now immortalized in an incredibly detailed 6-inch scale posed figure that captures the essence of his journey toward love and self-discovery. With his friends by his side, Andy embarks on a comedic and heartwarming quest to reverse his fortunes and find true love. Oh, and don't worry, I won't be calling out Kelly Clarkson at all in this review. At least, I don't think I will be. Before we get a closer look, though, at the 40-year-old virgin Andy Stitzer, we're going to take the tape measure and we're going to see how tall the figure stands. Now, this release that we're looking at in this review, that's a limited run of 3,600 pieces worldwide. There was also an even more limited release, the McFarlane Toys digital version of Andy, that was only limited to 1,650 pieces. I have both versions of Andy. I'm not really even sure if I'm going to be looking at the digital version. From what I at least can tell, they look like they're the identical figure, even with the shirt in his hand. Now, you may have even seen at the beginning of this review that it didn't look like he had a shirt in his hand. It actually fell inside the box. Luckily, though, it's easy to put back into his hands. Let's grab, though, the tape measure and see how tall the figure stands. Now, Andy is going to be also a staction statue. There's no posability at all for this figure, so it's a lot easier to have this guy on display. Less likely to break and keep the value still high, although I know I've already taken it out of the box. Andy, though, is going to stand at 6 3/4 of an inch in height, where the 40-year-old virgin is 16 centimeters tall. I don't know if I chose the right characters for comparisons, but some of the arguments really made about the movie Maniac line now is the characters that they're choosing. I mean, as an example here, I've got Mandy's Red Miller, and I've also got It Chapter 2's Pennywise the Clown. I mean, really, of the three, I mean, Andy's the least likely to be a, quote, movie maniac. I mean, you could always really say any Nicolas Cage role that he plays, he's a maniac in all of those, and there's no disputing at all that Pennywise the Clown is, yes, a movie maniac, but it just sort of, again, seems strange, the characters that they've chosen for the movie Maniac line. I'm not necessarily bothered by the fact that there's no posability on these figures, but more rather that the characters that they're choosing for this line seem sort of more all over the place. So we have a background that also serves as the certificate of authenticity. We also have a foil mystery bag. Which one should we look at first? Sorry, what? The background? No, we're not saying that. Okay, background it is. The background is made of a fairly thick card. It does, of course, have the character featured on the front here. I mean, it serves well to be a background display. This actually just clips onto the back of the display base. I'll show you guys how that works in a second. On the back, though, certificate of authenticity. This certifies that this is a limited edition worldwide product. Andy Stitzer figurine is authentic and officially licensed by McFarlane Toys. The figurine was created, developed, and designed by Todd McFarlane and his award-winning design group. All figures are individually hand-painted and sequentially numbered. Sequentially numbered, though, for me, happens to be 9 out of the 3,600 run. Again, there's the digital release of 1,650, but again, like the figure looks exactly the same. It has also the same background cardboard displayer as well. But basically what you're going to be doing here is on the back of the displayer, there's a little slot right here. This little ravine will serve a purpose quickly. You just basically take yourself the cardboard standee, or the cardboard background, and you just basically put that behind. He unfortunately just blocks himself, though. I mean, you're really only just looking at the top of his forehead once you have Andy in front, but at least it's something. It's something to look at. On to now, at least the foil bag. The bag has a little perforation. Now, I haven't opened this yet. Obviously, you can clearly see. Let's just tear along the top of the perforation. One of the problems, though, is the problem I thought I was going to have, and sure enough, I am having this. If you have something really close to where you're ripping this, my worry would be that I'd start to rip whatever's inside. And sure enough, I think that ends up being the case of what's happening here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to carefully rip down the bag, breaking the laws altogether. And what we'll pull out, of all the things that they include, they actually include, oh, is that a sticker? It is a sticker. So first of all, we have ourselves Datapalooza, 20 dates in 1 hour, which is a peelable sticker, so you can write your name. Rad Cool Guy 375, I don't know. You probably would want to really put your real name in there. Everybody would spot right away that that's not really your birth date or your birth name. Basically peel that off, stick it on your shirt, and everybody would know what they're going to call you. The other thing that we have is also... This is amazing. We have ourselves a sticker, but it isn't just a sticker where you're going to peel off the back of this altogether. You're actually going to peel off the part outlining Andy. So if you ever really wanted to have yourself a hairy version of Andy from the 40-year-old virgin just stuck on some random thing, you can just peel that off and stick it, of course, in place. That's just such a very random sticker. I could see just like on its own, it's already random. But the fact that it would be also outlined around Andy's body just seems so really strange to me. Anyways, I think it's pretty cool. Anyways, let's put it off to the side. So getting, though, a closer look at Andy, mentioned already is that his shirt, I thought what would be the one thing that would be different between this one and the McFarlane digital version release of him. Because I was kind of say, well, if one doesn't have a shirt, and the digital version does, I would rather have gone with the digital version because at least it has a shirt. Because without it, it looks like Andy is just sort of walking around looking for spare change, or maybe he's lost his keys. I'm sure he's probably even looking for his shirt. But the shirt actually ended up being at the bottom of the box. It just ended up coming up loose. I don't know if it was originally supposed to be glued in place, but it looks like it just so easily fits into his hand. You know what? I'm just going to remove this for right now, put it off to the side. Yeah, the shirt actually just fits inside his hand. So basically there's like a little ledge right there. You just fit it into Andy's hand. I say that now. There we go. Basically just fit it in his hand and he's holding it. Again, like the digital version of this does the exact same thing. Does certainly finish it, though. Head sculpt-wise, I do think it looks a lot like him. I mean, whether I would be arguing the point or not, whether this is a rightful movie Maniac, I will say, though, it does look a lot like him. Also, you can see, too, the way the waxing job has left behind. One of the funny things was during the waxing scene, apparently it was all improv. Also, you can see that they just ripped away. Oh, that was just painful to look at that. As a guy, perhaps, that could maybe use a little bit of waxing, that just pained me to see that. In fact, he was even bleeding during that scene as well. But it sort of results then in having a face, eyes, nose, and a mouth. I'll forget about it. Very hairy man, though. Unfortunately, though, one thing about Andy is that he's got these lines right here, so it looks like his arms were separate from the rest of his body. I can't quite really pinpoint why they chose to have the arms being separate from the rest of his body, when I feel like just molding the whole thing as one piece would have made a whole lot more sense. Does I feel like it looks a lot like him? Yes. They have added a little bit of extra kind of blush on the sides of his cheeks. I don't really think that was necessary at all, but I think the face sculpt is really quite good. When it comes to also his pants, what's one kind of interesting about his pants, not that we're going to spend a whole lot of time looking at his pants, but he does also have his boxer shorts. I mean, that's one thing. But if you look at the bottom of his pants, they're separate from the rest of the figure, which again, like his arms, is sort of strange to me, because I would think, like, wouldn't it have just been so much easier just to mold everything together? I could see if there was a variant release of this guy, which there is, that has the pants gone, like just they're completely absent. But with both releases having them, and both of them having what I'm guessing to be pants that are separate from the rest of his body, why would it just not have been easier just that they would have molded everything at the same time and not made this as a separate piece? Because you would imagine everything that has a separate piece has to have a separate mold. Why am I tapping like this? Everything that has a separate piece has to have a separate mold. Everything that has a separate mold has to have its own tooled mold. So that would just be added costs. Would not just molding this as one piece make more sense? He also happens to be standing on top of a base that says the 40-year-old virgin. I don't know necessarily it really needed this. I think it could have easily just been left off altogether. Or had it been something else, like carpet, maybe the inside, for example. Like if they want to make use out of this display base, which I clearly would imagine that they're trying to do, and then they're only just changing the name of the character on the front here. So we got Andy Stitzer. If this is something that they're going to be using for all future movie Maniacs, I don't know. I would have maybe changed the display base, this part right here, to something different. Again, maybe the inside of where he goes to get waxed, maybe like the flooring there. It just seems like 40-year-old virgin, then just having like random action figures and things all around him. Just seems a little out of place to me. Like if you're going to do it here, I would just have stretched it across the entire base, not just sort of localized it in one area. Again, there's no articulation at all for Andy. You can't rotate his head. You can't turn his arms. I don't feel like if you're going into this knowing that the movie Maniacs right from the get-go are just statues, I don't feel like you're going to be disappointed. If you want to go in there and you're looking at the movie Maniacs like they would have been in the early 2000s, late 1990s, where, yeah, there would have been something that could have turned on the figure. I think now looking at what we're getting for the offerings for Todd and his team, you might be a little bit more disappointed that the movie Maniacs don't have any posability. Again, I'm less disappointed that there's anything that really moves on Andy. I'm kind of, again, more perplexed that they chose Andy from the 40-year-old virgin to be a subject for a movie Maniac release. Still, though, it's a nice looking figure. I mean, whether, again, I keep calling this really, again, a figure, it should really be more considered a statue. Again, you got yourself the background here, which I guess you probably could have flipped either this way, right? So it looks like, I mean, that would kind of be also ironic, the fact that Andy's so concerned about the value of something that you then put the certificate of authenticity being the more front and center. But again, you got yourself a little background here. Based, again, on the fact that the display base does have Andy here, and then that little section tile is more specific to the 40-year-old virgin, I would gather then that they're probably going to be using this base for a future release. Maybe not as elaborate anymore as what we're getting with the original movie Maniacs, like here Pennywise the Clown. But again, like if you are a big fan of 40-year-old virgin, whether you question the legitimacy and whether this guy even needs to exist as a movie Maniac figure release, if though you like the 40-year-old virgin, the Andy Stitzer movie Maniac might be one that you might want to pick up. So I keep looking back and forth between the regular release that we looked in this review and the McFarlane Toys digital version of Andy Stitzer. The boxes are exactly the same. Andy inside the box looks also exactly the same. Now, we talked a little bit also in this review that his shirt was something I found in the bottom of the box. So there I thought, okay, like maybe the digital version would have had a shirt and more reason why you would want to pick up that release over this one. But yeah, the shirt I ended up finding. So it's not that. The pants are loose from the rest of his body, which again makes no sense to me. Like, well, wouldn't it just made it more sense to mold everything from the costing of tooling? Just mold all of Andy together instead of having the pants being separate. But if they were loose, you would think, okay, well, maybe the digital version of Andy doesn't have pants. Not that we really want to spend a whole lot of time talking about Steve Carell without his pants. But no, that's not it at all either. The inside of the box is exactly the same, unless maybe what's inside the foil bag is different. But you wouldn't know that until you picked up both. I don't know if still I'm going to be opening up the digital version of Andy just because, again, like, from what I can see cosmetically, they're exactly the same to one another. Now, I mean, obviously you could argue the point of whether Andy really belongs in the territory of movie Maniacs. I think really now Todd and his team are just kind of sort of grouping all the characters that are sort of like the island of misfit toys. If they don't belong in any other category, and if they want to be them and release them as statues, they sort of all group them together under the banner of movie Maniacs. Whether I really feel like movie Maniacs, if that be the case, I think they should just change the name to something else. Pop Maniacs. I don't know. I could probably think of a better title than that if you guys left it with me a little bit longer. But like Pop Maniacs, I think would have made more sense. Because again, like if it's not going to be covering the area of specifically horror or characters played by Nicolas Cage, I think not calling it movie Maniacs just for me doesn't make any sense. Although again, like if I'm calling it Pop Maniacs, Maniacs, I would imagine is probably the part of the title that makes the least sense. Movie makes sense. Maniac maybe is probably yeah. Now that I think about it, Pop Maniacs probably isn't going to fly either. But again, like from the look of at least Steve Carell here, I feel it looks a lot like him. I mean, the figure's sculpted pretty well, and I keep making the mistake of calling it a figure when really it is a statue. I do appreciate at least that they included this back card that, as you can see right now, also serves as well for the certificate of authenticity. Does he belong as a movie Maniac? Maybe no, but it doesn't mean that he's not a bad-looking sculpted statue. And I think if you are a fan, though, of Steve Carell, why not pick this one up? Let me know down below in the comment section if you guys have had the chance to pick up the Andy Stitzer from either version, whether it be the regular version or the digital. And if you have opened up both, let me know if there's a difference between the two. Let me also know down below in the comment section for your video question for today. What's your favorite Steve Carell movie? Is it also the 40-year-old virgin, or maybe it's something else? For me, I probably would still say Ron Burgundy. Yeah, Anchorman. No, not the second Anchorman. I didn't think that the second one was as good as the first. But the first one, and Steve Carell in that, like all the characters, Paul Rudd and all the rest of the main cast are just gold in the original Anchorman. I would be the one to say that that's my favorite Steve Carell film. What's yours? Let me know down below in the comment section. In the meantime, if you guys did enjoy this video, do it a solid, throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. Hit that subscribe, turn on that bell, but of course come back. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.